Wake up.
Ah!
You gotta make the video.
Yeah. Give me up. Hey everyone, I'm Edward Speed, inventor of Going Fast. I've had a bit of a rough day. Things aren't going well ever since the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer released. But I know I can win your support back with a new kind of speed. I'm talking about speed dueling.
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. It's the last day of the month, which means it's time to take a look at the well-supported, constantly changing, and ever-popular Speed Duel format. As I'm sure you're aware, Speed Duel Worlds was last week, and... Alright, I can't keep this up. Obviously the format's in a rough spot right now. There's not a lot of events being hosted, and the newest set, Attack from the Deep, doesn't come out until late May. Despite this, there's a ton of stuff we can learn in the interim about the direction of the metagame, what previously overlooked decks might be good enough to play, and what memey garbage is much more playable than we previously thought. So without further ado, this month's Speed Duel Monthly. Our first deck is the most palatable of the format, and a strong contender for the best strategy, HARPIE Relinquished. My initial prediction that the metagame would be focused around tribal synergy was only half true. While tribal's certainly still the deck to beat, the wide range of applications for twister activations mean that its reliance on face-up spells has become a huge liability. By this point in the format's evolution, almost every deck is playing some number of twister main. This list attempts to next level the metagame by playing the shell against which twister is worse than useless, Relinquished. Instead of stuffing the deck full of battle changers it's unlikely our opponent will walk into, we're supplementing Relinquished with a HARPIE engine to get the beats going, alongside 3 Harpies hunting ground. This card not only does a good enough impression of Twister, but also hits face down spells and traps. That's something I cannot recommend enough. Finally, sometimes you get to live the dream and pop your own Relinquished equip to suck again. So with that, let's get into the card by card. For monsters, we're on 3 Harpie Lady 1 because it stacks so well. 3 Senju of the Thousand Hands, 3 Sphere Karibo, God bless Konami for this Relinquished support, and 3 of the Blue Daddy. For spells, we're on 3 copies of Black Illusion Ritual and 3 Harpies Hunting Ground, and for traps, all we're playing is 2 Windstorm of Ataqua. For our skill, we're playing Destiny Draw. So with that, let's check out a game. Our match is up against Relinquished, and while the deck lists are very different, it is still unquestionably the mirror. Few things are more exciting than watching a Relinquished mirror, watching paint dry, watching grass grow, playing Mystic Mine in TCG. But at the very least, this will prove an interesting test case for whether we should be including Harpies in our build. We elect to go second. That's great news because it means both we will have the first crack at our opponent's life points and that we will have the ability to suck. Our opponent, unfortunately, is able to circumvent our suckage by normal summoning a copy of Gravekeeper's Recruiter, equipping it with a Wonder Wand, and drawing 2 cards plus the search. This is an interesting tribute engine. It's effectively unlimited fodder and gets them to Black Illusion Ritual very quickly. They're going to add a Recruiter to hand, set this copy of Windstorm, and pass it back. For turn, we draw a second Relinquished. We'll normal summon a copy of Senju of the Thousand Hands and get in for 1400. Our opponent permits us to do so, which is great. It means we can pressure our opponent's life points over the next couple of turns, and then we'll pass it back. Our opponent for turn draws a second copy of Black Illusion Ritual. They'll set a copy of Gravekeeper's Recruiter instead of summoning Relinquished, and then pass it back. Remember, the person who pulls the trigger first without beating their opponent loses this match. We draw into a Harpie, which is excellent. It means we'll be able to set Harpie's Hunting Ground and force the back row. This set copy of back row is Windstorm of Ataqua, which is pretty good news for us because it means our Senju is still live. Unfortunately, that set card has 1500 defense, so all we get is information. We'll take 100 here and pass it back. Our opponent draws into a Sphere Karibo. They'll go to end step. We'll draw for turn. It's a copy of Black Illusion Ritual, and this should be lethal. We'll activate Black Illusion Ritual, special summon a Relinquished. Our opponent will realize they have no more life points to spare, and they'll concede. Our second deck is another entry in the class of Tribal Adjacent Value Generators. They're well-statted monsters with beneficial effects. I'll admit that I slept on this archetype when it was released, but it's become clear that, shockingly, it's playable. Decayed Commander is the closest we've currently got to a control, full-stop type of deck. It's a tribal zombie strategy that uses straight to the grave to win combat, while its slender suite of playables affords it access to every single above-the-curve spell and trap in the format. Its flagship monster, Decayed Commander, can summon a zombie tiger, a union monster of all things, from your hand, then discard a card from your opponent's hand when it deals battle damage or destroys a monster by battle if equipped. Effectively, any successful attack with this monster will create an advantage disparity so large that it might as well be lethal. So with that, let's check out the card by card. Firstly, we're playing 3 Decayed Commander and 3 Zombie Tiger in solidarity with unions. International Zombies of the World unite. 3 Sphere Karibo, and 2 copies of Dragon Zombie as a reasonably playable beater. For spells, we're playing the tribal tax of 3 Twister, followed by a trap lineup of 3 Kunai with Chain and 3 Windstorm of Ataqua. Again, we are on straight to the grave. So with that, let's check out a game. Our match is up against Tribal Synergy, the best deck in the format for advantage-oriented, grinding gameplay. We are going second, which is excellent news. I appreciate the extra card. We have a reasonable opener. It's not fantastic, of course. It doesn't contain a copy of Decayed Commander, which is what we're looking for. Unfortunately for us, our opponent's opener is quite good. It has the first half of Tribal Synergy. They'll draw a card off the top and, well, it is a monster. 4 monsters isn't exactly what this deck wants to see. Instead, they'll normal summon a copy of Amazoness Swordswoman, equip it with an heirloom, and pass it back to us. For turn, we draw a Twister, and suddenly the weakness of Tribal Synergy is on full display. We'll normal summon a copy of Dragon Zombie, set a Windstorm, go to battle phase, and activate Twister in order to destroy the heirloom. We'll take a fair amount of damage in the process, both by attacking over Swordswoman and paying 500 for Twister, but we get to eat a couple of our opponent's cards, which is a pretty good trade. We'll then pass it back to our opponent, who, for turn, draws a second copy of Heirloom. That's frustrating, but while we can't Twister this one, we might be able to get rid of it the normal way. When they go to battle phase, we'll activate Sphere Karibo, switching it to defense position, and now we just have to attack twice. The point here is to keep our opponent off of the second half of Tribal Synergy for as long as possible. The second copy of Zombie Tiger certainly isn't going to help things, but summoning 1 means that we'll be able to destroy the Sage, which we'll do now. Always nice to be getting these freebies against an advantage-oriented deck. For turn, our opponent draws a copy of Sphere Karibo. They will normal summon a Harpie Lady and then pass it back. Finally, we find a Decayed Commander. Now, unfortunately for our opponent, any attack our Decayed Commander gets while it's equipped with a Zombie Tiger is going to discard 2 cards out of their hand. They can't let that happen, so they'll activate Sphere Karibo, giving us another free destruction of Harpie Lady with Dragon Zombie. These beaters are really putting in work. They'll take a fair amount of damage in the process, then draw a copy of Village for turn. They're going to set Village, then normal summon a copy of Sage. They'll go to battle phase. We will, activate Windstorm of Ataqua, shutting off Amazoness Village for at least the time being before they pass it back to us. Now, unfortunately, Decayed Commander doesn't work particularly well with Village, but several monsters with high attack do. We have a Twister, but I'm not really concerned about this field spell, to be honest. We'll switch our monsters to attack position and then normal summon a copy of Zombie Tiger. We'll set the Twister in case we run into another copy of Heirloom or something that's actually threatening before going to battle phase. We'll first attack with Decayed Commander. Our opponent will float into a copy of Swordswoman, which we can easily attack with our copy of Dragon Zombie. That deals a fair amount of damage to our own life points, but we're able to deal damage to our opponents immediately afterwards with this copy of Zombie Tiger. Finally, they'll draw for turn a copy of Windstorm of Ataqua and concede. And finally, what would a Speed Duel Monthly be without a ridiculous piece of unplayable garbage? Our third deck is pal-o-mine-zation, and Jesus Christ. This deck uses the skill pal-o-mine-zation to turn any 2 of the deck's normal monsters into the requisite material to summon Meteor B Dragon. We can fetch either half with Blue Dragon Summoner and dig deeper for polymerization with Wonder Wand, and then, once we've successfully landed our Honkin' Chonker onto the board, we'll bring back the Red Eyes we used as material with Red Eyes Spirit. Finally, we'll find a 2-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, since we're so deep in magical Christmas land already. So with that, let's check out the card by card. Firstly, we're playing 3 Blue Dragon Summoner and 2 Sphere Karibo. 2 ofs are always a good sign. Followed by 1 Meteor B Dragon and 3 Red Eyes Black Dragons. Remember, any 2 of these make Meteor. For spells, we're on 3 Polymerization and 3 Wonder Wand. And for traps, we're on 2 Spirit and 3 Windstorm. In the extra, a phrase I won't be using often, we're on 3 Meteor. And of course, our skill is pal-o-mine-zation. With that, let's check out a game. Alright, leave the analysis at the door. Joey Wheeler doesn't need your nerd numbers. We are going second in this duel against Dragon Caller. Unfortunately for our opponent, we're effectively on the Chad version of their deck. Unfortunately for us, they've drawn quite well. They're going to start by normal summoning a copy of Lord of D. This triggers Dragon Caller, getting a Flute of Summoning Dragon to the hand. Afterwards, telegraphing that they have a second Lord of D, they'll equip this one with Wonder Wand and fire it off, drawing 2 cards. They'll set a copy of Windstorm of Itaqua from their hand and pass it back. We are exactly 1 normal monster away from special summoning a copy of Meteor B Dragon, so we'll roll the dice and draw a couple of cards, and what do you know, Red Eyes does it! We'll use the effect of Blue Dragon Summoner to get a copy of Meteor Dragon to hand, and I figure why even activate the skill if you don't have to? We'll polymerase a copy of Meteor B Dragon and attack for a whopping 3,500 points of okay. Well, that's frustrating, yes. Despite being a honking chonker, Meteor B Dragon only has 2,000 defense points. Our opponent is going to normal summon a second copy of Lord of D and Flute of Summoning Dragon into 2 cards. Oh boy. They'll set a card and attack. We'll activate Sphere Karibo on the Tyrant Dragon, at least preventing our imminent death. This Meteor B Dragon is not long for this world, and we will take 1,200 in the process, but theoretically, we could still pull this off. We have pal-o-mine-zation available, and Sphere Karibo means we might even survive the turn. Well, not if our summon gets negated. So that's that. To my new patrons, this episode was recorded in advance, so I apologize for your lack of shouting out, but don't worry, it's coming. If you want to see me play the decks I make on this show on stream, I'm on twitch.tv/mbtygo every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and if you have an idea for a deck or archetype you want to see me play on a future episode of this show, let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.